Welcome to SharpenTheHustle.com podcast with Jesse Miller. We're working hard as a given, but results are how we measure success. We interview successful business owners that'll help you sharpen your hustle.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to SharpenTheHustle.com podcast. I'm here with Jared Lafitte. He is the founder of the Human Culture Movement, a very incredible company. They offer a great resource for organizations. Jared, why don't you take a second and introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks for having me on, Jesse. Appreciate it. My name is Jared Lafitte. I'm a speaker, coach, author, and the founder of the Human Culture Movement. And my passion is to help leaders and organizations build truly people-centered cultures. And so I've built a whole organization around this, a whole training system around this. I'm working on several writing projects. And that's my passion, is to make it so that when you go to work, whatever work you do, you feel accepted, empowered, you feel respected and cared about as an employee. And if you're a leader, my passion, my job is to help you as a leader know how to create that type of environment. That's my goal.
Very cool, man. I love the mission. People are so desire to be connected to what they're doing, and more than just spending 40 hours a week there and getting a paycheck. So I think it's an incredible resource. Tell us about how you got here. How'd you land in this position doing what you're doing today?
Sure. In 2009, originally moved, or really 2008, now I think of it, moved to Louisville, Kentucky, which is kind of in the South, the Midwest, kind of where they come together, and started to go to grad school. So went to a place called Southern Seminary and got my MDiv from there, Master of Divinity. And as I was pursuing a ministry degree, I also felt a call to entrepreneurship. I realized I loved building businesses. I loved trading services for dollars. I loved the idea of just building a company. And so I started a music teaching company in 2008. Focusing on piano, voice, guitar, and a lot of tutoring as well. So a good blend of working mostly with kids, some adults, piano, voice, guitar, tutoring, test prep, that sort of thing. And I didn't think it would grow very much, but it did. It started to really consume my whole schedule in a good way. And so I was up to 30 clients a week doing this, about 1,000 lessons per year, and I fell in love with it. The idea of teaching and coaching and getting people to become confident. Well, something interesting happened in 2013. After I'd been doing this about 5 years, I had a client come to me who was an older gentleman, an executive in the world of intellectual property insurance. And he originally wanted to learn how to sing. He came to me for voice lessons, and so as we were working on voice, he told me, Jared, I do a lot of work speaking, and I'm called upon as an expert in my industry, but I don't always feel confident when I'm up there on stage. And I wonder, Jared, if maybe you can take some of these principles you're giving me from the music world, right, from standing up and from projecting as we're singing, and maybe help me learn how to be a better speaker with that. And I thought, you know what? There are a lot of similarities between having confidence as a singer on stage and having confidence as a speaker on stage. You use your voice the same way, you use your breathing the same way, you use your body the same way. And I thought, you know what? Let's build a method for him to become a great public speaker using some of these principles from singing. And that's exactly what we did, Jesse. So over about a 4 or 5 month period, he and I worked together and built out a 25-page document that drew from the world of opera, from the world of singing that I had grown up in, and helped him become a better speaker. And where he put this to the test was he had to motivate one of his clients toward the end of 2013, beginning of 2014, to take a case before the United States Supreme Court. Now, the technical details of the case, that's something you can look up online, but his task was to motivate these people to go ahead and carry through and take the case all the way. They did. He went with his team, and they ended up winning the case. in April of 2014. He called me and he said, Jared, thank you for being a small part of this. And I'd like you to maybe work with some of my team here in Louisville to help them develop their own, communication abilities, public speaking skills. And so as we did that, Jesse, I realized when you help someone with communicating and public speaking, what you're really doing is helping them with their leadership. Because so much of leadership comes through your communication. You take two people who are equally intelligent and have expertise and authority, but one of them is a better communicator. Who are you going to go with? The better communicator. So communication is big, and I realized that as I helped them communicate, I was helping them lead. And that's what really launched me into executive coaching, into working with teams, developing. So, I mean, it is talk about a God story. It is a total thing that I could not have invented or made up. And I love what I do, helping leaders and helping teams.
Man, I love a couple of things in that story. Instilling confidence, instilling the ability to lead. I mean, it really does all come back to communication. And a huge part of communication is the individual that you're communicating to, and developing a genuine understanding of who they are. And so tell me a little bit about that methodology in your practice. How do you lead people through that process?
Sure. And while I'm telling you this, I'm going to get my charger because my phone is about to die. Speaking of communication, don't want to destroy the medium of communication here. So if you think about it, Jesse, what motivates people to action? What moves people to take action to do what they need to do? They're motivated by a vision and their ability to contribute to that vision. So one thing I tell the leaders I work with is, listen, what you need to impute a strong sense of vision to your people and communicate a strong sense of how they contribute to that vision. If they can get a very good grasp of both of these things, you'll get their hearts pretty well. And so equipping a leader is helping that leader to get out of himself or herself, quite honestly, because most leaders have the choice every day to choose between a company vision and something bigger, or simply their own ego. And so I tell every leader, we have to make that choice. Is this going to be about you, or is this going to be about the vision that you're after? And sometimes they want both. And so I say, listen, we got to go after the vision. 1, 2, you got to get with your people, help them understand how they're contributing, how they can contribute better. Think the way they think, get on their level, assume that they don't know what's going on, and so help them understand what's going on. Over communicate. No one will ever get mad at you for over communicating. And likewise, no one will ever get mad at you for acknowledging a great job when they do a great job. So as leaders, the big message is that your communication is who you are. Plain and simple. Your communication is who you are. Lead by example is great. Leading by example is great, but example alone does not substantiate one's leadership. You have to learn how to package it into the words you use every day. Help people understand why you're doing what you're doing. Help people to understand how they can do things better. Don't get mad at people for not doing things you didn't explain to them. One of my favorite quotations is, there's no such thing as disappointment without expectation. So if you're disappointed all the time, maybe your expectations are off. Do you have the right expectations here? Communicate these things. So that's my passion, Jesse, is helping leaders build teams by taking what's in their head and vocalizing it, verbalizing it. How often is it the case, Jesse, that you see leaders talking to everyone except who they're supposed to be talking to about everything that's going wrong in the company? They blame everyone, circle blame. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I love that you bring it back to their choice. Are we building your ego, or are we building a company? Are we building something that accommodates more than just you? And that question is very significant to answer. And in my coaching and consulting package, my main goal is the entity and the organization, and anything, including the leader, if they're in the way of that, I'm going to let them know they're in the way of it, because my job is to make that organization whole and sound and functional. And ego is one of the quickest ways to kill what's happening in an organization. So I'd love to know your thoughts along those lines.
Oh my gosh, man, we could go for hours on this. I would love to, because, here's the thing. All business issues are people issues at the end of the day. Usually when something goes wrong in a company, It can be traced back to some miscommunication somewhere, to some competing agenda between one leader and another, to some misaligned expectation. There's always something that goes down to some issue of the human heart, whether it's being lazy, whether it's not considering another person very fairly, and so all that comes down to the ego. And so, we think of ego as a good thing. Like it's so funny how in pop psychology we think of like, well, I need to build myself, I need to build my ego, and that can be true. We want to be confident, but the answer to confidence is not egotism. The answer to confidence is being in the middle, being a humble person, not thinking less of yourself or thinking too highly of yourself, but just thinking about the vision that you have to do. And, it's just this selfishness, man. I mean, you see it in kids, and, adults are just kids who learn how to be selfish when it's convenient for them, and learn how to hide it. But, so we got to work on that. And, I'm a Christian, and I believe that a lot of the reason is because we are what's called sinners. I mean, I think that sin is a real thing, and I think that's why we're selfish people. So we have to fight against that. And basically, to boil all that down, it's you want leaders to know that if you think you're a king, and if you are building a company around your glory, even if you don't say that out loud, even if you never use the words, if that's still what's going on in your heart, you just want to build this thing up to make yourself look good, people are going to get hurt and things are going to go bad. So it's learning how to be confident, but not self-obsessed.
Yeah, man, I love that. There's a lot of wisdom there. Let's shift gears here. One of the earlier things you alluded to, I want to talk about it for a minute. I'd love to get your take on it. So in my practical experience, frustration with staff is one of the big things that we deal with. And my genuine belief is that typically it's because the leader hasn't communicated effectively to the employee or the staff member exactly what they want them to do and how they want them to do it. And they get frustrated when they don't get a result that they didn't coach. So, man, will you talk to that a little bit more? What's your experience with that?
Sure. There's this dynamic in every company called the circle of blame. And talk about the ego. That's one of the effects of the ego. When the ego kicks in, it's everyone else's fault all the time. It's never my fault. It's always someone else's fault. And that's usually what happens is you get this feedback loop of something goes wrong. Well, it's the leader's fault. No, it's my staff's fault. No, it's the leader's fault. Well, the truth is most of the time it's usually some combination of both. So that's step one to really resolving that sort of thing. Acknowledge that we're not perfect, that more than likely if something went wrong, it's never going to be 100% someone else, 0% me. There's probably somewhere in the middle. That's step one. Step two is as a leader, you do have a little bit more responsibility to make things happen than your staff. That's just the name of the game. That's what it means to be a leader. The word lead is an old Proto-Indo-European war word that means in the front of the pack. You're in the front of the pack, man. You're leading people through mountains and terrains. That's what people did in early civilization. So if something goes wrong, even if you're not completely responsible for it, you still need to take ownership of it. Ownership and responsibility are two different things. Take ownership of it and say, yes, something went wrong. I'm not going to sit here and blame my staff and go to lunch and complain over a sandwich that, oh, he did it. I'm going to own it. Step three is if something went wrong, don't obsess over it. Just say what needs to happen now. We did the root cause analysis. Something went wrong. So now, as a result, we're going to change. Here's what I need to communicate to make things better. It doesn't matter who's responsible or not. It's just here is now what I need to communicate to make things better. Then you communicate with the staff. You over-communicate. No one will get mad at you for over-communicating. They might get mad at you for having them in a meeting when you could send an email, but they won't get mad at you for over-communicating. So I think consistency and clarity is the biggest thing for a leader, and for a leader to remember that people don't remember what they hear best. They remember what they hear most. They don't remember what they hear best. They remember what they hear most. You got to do it often. So those are just some thoughts there about resolving those tensions that can flare up when staff and leadership are, in conflict.
Man, incredible insight there. That's there's some awesome wisdom in that. Let's shift gears here. Jared, what's on the horizon for you? What opportunities are you exploring? How are you looking to contribute more significantly to the businesses that you work with?
Well, I've been serving as a coach and a consultant for a good while now, and I'm also an author. So I contribute to publications like Forbes, and have a feature coming out for Entrepreneur Magazine. So I'm happy about those things. I'm really wanting to focus as a speaker and to deliver value that way going forward. So as 2017 kind of hits Q3 and Q4, I guess we're already technically in Q3 here. I really want to, just kind of push the keynoting and the workshops a little bit heavier because I found that can be a quick way to deliver value to a lot of people. Is to get in there. You have a half day, you have a day maybe with the company, and you deliver the material. You get them thinking differently, and then they can go on their own. And sometimes you can hit 100, 200, 1,000, 2,000 people that way, and it can be an efficient means of delivery. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping to leverage some connections that I have with different organizations and different individuals to really bring the speaking element up. I just have a passion for speaking. I've spoken to, I don't know what the exact number is, but it's somewhere between 15 and 20,000 people since 2009. And I love it. I mean, I love preaching too. I think preaching and speaking are a little bit different. Because preaching is more, God's word, but speaking is, is very similar. The mechanics are very similar, and I just have a passion for it, man. So that's what's on the horizon, and then also working on a podcast myself, like we're doing here, for the human culture movement. And so I'm going to interview people, and hopefully have you on there, and hopefully have some other people on there, people who are experienced industry leaders. So really build that podcast and that content up, blogging. And then I'm also hoping to complete a book here by about Q2 of 2018.
It's awesome, man. I love it. You're engaging and creating a lot of resources for people. So I love it, man. It's incredible. I'd love to be on your podcast as well in the future. I love what you're doing and want to play a role in it any way I can. So that's great. So, all right, let's switch. Let's talk a little bit about the Forbes Council. Tell me some of the benefits that or relationships, or tell me a little bit about that for people that are curious about the Forbes Coaches Council.
Sure. Back in, it must have been November of 2016, someone referred me for membership to the Forbes Coaches Council. And just for anyone who doesn't know, so the Forbes organization is massive. I mean, they're just about the biggest in the business world. I think they're the biggest media body there is. I mean, I can't think of a bigger media body in the world of business and finance. Maybe The Economist, I don't know. But anyway, they have little arms in their council movement. So they have the agency council, the marketing council, the nonprofit council, the coaches council. And what these councils are organizations where industry experts can come together, communicate with each other, share knowledge with each other, do referrals for each other. And it's basically a way to build up each other's careers. And so I was referred to the council. I don't know to this day who referred me, but whoever it was, thank you. And started with the Forbes Coaches Council in December of 2016. And so one of the main things I do is contribute articles through the Forbes, through the Forbes network. Every 2-3 weeks or so, I'm writing one, and I've also done some video training through Forbes as well. That's been a good experience, and so that's kind of the rundown of what the council is and what I've been doing with them.
Cool. All right. Next question: if you had no resources and no relationship capital established, what would you do to start a company today?
If I had no resources and no relationship capital established. And are you talking about, like a hypothetical company, like different from what I'm doing?
Yeah. Hypothetical. If you had nothing, everything got wiped out, would you start a company? And if so, what would that be? And how would you go about doing it?
Oh, man. I guess I'd have to really examine what are my passions and where do I want to help people? Because people do not buy what does not help them. And so that would be my first thing is to dig in and say, where do I want to help people the most? And then second, I would probably, I'd have to start out by just building content. That would probably be the way I'd engage whatever audience I'd have, since the social capital would be gone in this scenario. So I'd be, developing written content, audio content, video content, based around whatever theme I'd pick for helping. And then, it would just be one-on-one, giving people a call, emailing people and saying, listen, here's a way that I believe I can help you. Would you be interested in talking? That's really the only way I can think of to build something from nothing. I think a lot of times people start businesses and they have this idea of this fantasy of being an entrepreneur. Some people call them entrepreneurs, and they don't really have a passion for helping people. And I think that's why so many of them fail. Also, there's, the logistical issues, but I think you have to really find, where do I want to make people's lives better? And I think if you have that, you have a fighting chance to really build anything. So does that answer your question?
Man, very, very cool. Well, a lot of great insight in that. And I agree. I think a lot of wannabe entrepreneurs start backwards. I think, what can I do to create cash as the first thought? And cash is absolutely critical. I mean, you absolutely have to have it. But the beautiful thing is that when you find those needs that people have, that creates the most cash as well, because you're serving, you're contributing, you're dealing with the things that they desire to be dealt with. And not only does it create the most cash, it creates it the fastest, and it creates it for the long term as well. It's not just a one-time engagement where you sell somebody something that they never use, and then they don't like you because you sold them something that didn't benefit them. So, man, I love it. Incredible insight there.
Thanks.
Very cool. So, Jared, where can people get a hold of you? Where, if somebody's interested in what you do, what's the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, the best place to get a hold of me would be thehumanculturemovement.com. So that's one word smushed together, thehumanculturemovement.com. That would be the primary site that I'm working with right now. In addition, we also have, you can email me at jared.lafitte. So it's Jared, like the diamond store, JARED.LAFITTE @gmail.com. I read my email probably every 2.5 minutes, and would love to connect with anyone that way as well.
Cool, man. Thank you for your time today. Appreciate your insight. Love what you do, and thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jesse.
You've been listening to SharpenTheHustle.com podcast with Jesse Miller. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show, or to listen to past episodes, check out SharpenTheHustle.com.